Well, hello, Isi. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Erica. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on and to chat all about your incredible journey on YouTube. So, why don't we just get started with you sharing what inspired you to
Mm,
get onto YouTube all those years ago? Because I know you've been on the platform for a hot minute. So,
yeah. So I've been on there 7 years. I started my junior year of college, actually. And the inspiration for the journey came from I was a student athlete all my life. I even had a full ride track and field scholarship in college. And it stemmed from a lot of things. I'm putting myself back there mentally. I felt I was in a place where I was feeling very insecure, didn't quite feel like social media, like what I was seeing on social media, there was a space for someone who looked like me. Also, like the Instagram baddie or the Coke bottle shape, just all the societal standards that are put on women and expectations of how we're supposed to look and blah, 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 blah. I didn't feel aligned with that being an athlete all my life. I didn't wear makeup. I don't
oh,
think until college, and even now, I don't do nor know how to the foundation, the contour, all that stuff. I just do my brows, lashes. I'm very simple
yeah.
with it, but based off what the imagery that I was seeing back then and even what we see now, it's kind of expanded more than when I was even in college, but it didn't feel like there was a lack of representation
Yeah,
just across
definitely.
the board. And I wanted to develop a community that I had no idea was going to become this, because I was just doing it as a hobby. And I was like, oh, maybe I can find other girls who kind of can relate to not feeling seen
Mm-hmm.
in this space and time that we were in. And that's where a lot of it came from, just feeling like all girls and women should feel beautiful, regardless of their shape, size, skin complexion, hair type. Because
Yeah.
that was another thing, like my hair type in particular, there was this curly girl movement going on. But on curly girl pages, it wasn't people that looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
It was looser curl patterns and textures. And it's dope, but diversity is also within that community and it wasn't being shown. So that's kind of where that stemmed from, of okay, maybe I don't even, it's kind of wild because I didn't think it was going to become what it is, but it was
Like
just
your
well, if I could
career,
help. Yeah.
yeah.
I was planning on being an event planner and a wedding planner. I got
Oh,
my degree in
oh,
hospitality and tourism and I minored in leadership. But by the time I graduated college, I was able to do social media full time. I was already making money from it. So
wow.
yeah.
So you were a sophomore, you said, or sophomore, junior,
Junior in
junior.
college. Yep.
So by the time you graduated, only not, I mean, what, a year, year and a half,
About,
2 years
yeah, I
after
would say
starting your
a year
channel.
and right. I started February 1st, 2016, and then I graduated December 2017.
Okay.
So, oh wow, yeah. I guess I've never even said it out loud in that way. Yeah, because within less than a year, I 100,000.
Wow. Okay, so your instinct and desire to get onto YouTube and represent a group of women that were really not represented, it seems like it really resonated with people. So when you first uploaded your first couple of videos, were you
Hmm.
thinking you were going to do something related? Because I know a lot of I mean, you have a variety of content now, but I know a lot of
Yeah.
what you did, it's hair related. So was that what you were thinking at the time and where you started, or did you just kind of say, let me just upload and see what happens?
Yeah, I feel like it was more of a let me just upload. Well, a little bit of this. So I will say, before I posted my first ever video,
Hmm.
I'm a Virgo, so just throwing that out there. So
That's like
everything I
September birthday,
do
right?
is September 2nd. Yep.
Okay, my daughter's
So
September 4th. So yeah,
awesome. Oh, she
yeah.
shares with Beyonce. That's dope.
Oh yeah,
Beyonce's
okay.
birthday September 4th.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
So saying all that to say, I'm very structured, organized, and detailed in what I do. And it's kind of funny. I even think about it now. I never had plans to be who I am, or I was terrified to say 100K. My boyfriend at the time, he's now my husband, would say you got that. And it would make me want to crap myself.
Oh,
Um,
and why? How come?
because that number, I'm a small town girl. Went to private school from fourth grade through college. Never was this popular girl in school. I was a great athlete, but
Hmm.
I feel and I was just talking to him about this the other day. I feel like social media is kind of like a popular game a little bit. It almost feels a little high school sometimes.
Oh
So
yeah,
the
yeah,
thought, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
the thought of having that many people with eyes on me or just being interested, like it was kind of scary. I feel like people don't really talk about at least for me, the way I envisioned it. That many people means I have that much influence, that much impact on people's lives that watch me. And I want to be very cautious and intentional about what I do with that influence. Yeah, I don't take that lightly at all. So that's why I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know what to do or think about that. But as I was saying, like a year and a half after being on there, I did hit 100,000. And to be honest, I did, especially in the beginning. It wasn't like a specific, like, I'm going to just focus on natural hair. I never wanted to niche myself in. That was something too. But I'd also brought up the whole Virgo thing because a year before I posted my first video on YouTube, I was kind of doing research, like people that I kind of liked their content or admired, because I was watching YouTube like as a regular person before I became a YouTuber. Correct. Right. So kind of like observing the greats and kind of seeing what their tactics and stuff was. And that's kind of how I decided to create something of my own. Like, oh, I kind of, and like, so getting inspo here and there, but implementing it into what Isimeme, or at the time, African Beauty. I started as African Beauty and changed my name 2-3 years ago when I got management. But that's where that stemmed from. So my first real video on YouTube was actually the boyfriend tag. He's my husband now. And that kind of like blew up my channel or got a lot of traction, I would say. Because I started completely from scratch, zero. I was nobody, quote unquote. I didn't have a social media presence. I didn't have that. So that started things. And then because I was in college and like I had a really good group of friends, especially guy friends, I was always cool with guys. Even my boyfriend at the time, we were best friends first, platonically, and it led to something else.
Did you meet your husband in college?
Yeah, we met in college. Yep.
And my husband too. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, college sweethearts are the best because you get to grow together. It's kind of crazy. Like we have been with each other our entire 20s. So,
that's me too. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, we're adulting together. We're learning how to become adults together. It's been a beautiful journey.
So he's seen you through this entire ride and journey on YouTube.
The entire everything. Like when I first had the idea the year prior, because we started dating in 2015. And I started the channel in 2016. So when the idea came to me, I'm like, hey, I think I want to start a YouTube channel. Do you think I should? This was like the main driver in my ear, him and my mom, of like, go for it. Yes, you should do it. So yes, he's been there.
I love that they're supportive. That's so important, because not everybody is. I mean, people will have this, I actually just was talking to somebody earlier today, and she was like, oh, my husband and my son were like, oh yeah, okay, good luck, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, it's amazing to have that energy and that support.
Yes, the support system, it means a lot. I contribute a lot of my success in this journey that I've been on to my support system. It wouldn't have been possible without them. But to finish answering your question, I was doing like real talk guy talks in the beginning too. So like questions that girls might want to know about from a guy's perspective. Because like I said, I had a lot of guy friends. And those conversations, it was kind of almost like a talk show mixed with natural hair. You would get everything from me. Because I didn't want to niche just like, oh, African Beauty is just for hair.
Yeah, pigeonhole yourself.
I'm a range of things. I'm very eclectic with my style as well as just like my person. So yeah.
So yeah, a lot of people do that kind of like niche down thing at the beginning. And so for you, you're like, no, I don't want to. I want to try different things. After a while, what kind of the content did you feel as if your audience was most interested in? I mean, there's data YouTube, and you say, I put this video up, everybody watches, or I put this video up and nobody watches. So what did you feel the type of content that really resonated with your audience?
Yeah, I would say definitely the hair was evident, type 4 hair at that. Like I said, there's a range of curly hair, but me in particular, I have type 4 natural hair. So that's the kinkiest, coiliest, curliest form. And there was a huge lack of representation, like I was saying, of girls. So I think that when I started making that content, it was missing. Not to say there was other people before me that were doing that content, but kind of like I was a college girl. So there was relatable in the youthfulness too, I think, of my journey. Whereas a lot of the other naturalists that kind of spearheaded the natural community were a little bit older in age, a little bit wiser. And that might not always seem relatable to a college student or somebody in high school or somebody in grade school that it's kind of crazy because I meet people who are like, I've been watching you since I was in grade school. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It makes me feel
Well, that goes back to that same thing about influence. You just don't
yeah.
know who you're influencing and kind of what you're. And it is. I love how you said that because I feel the same way. It's like when you have people following you and watching you, there is a responsibility there. And as
Yes.
influencers, you want to really honor that because
Yes.
it's a big deal.
It's
And
a big deal.
like you said, it's like take it seriously.
Hmm. Yeah, so natural hair was definitely one of those.
Hmm.
And just again, playing off of what you just were saying too, what we were talking about of it is a big responsibility as an influencer, and then realizing like, oh, this natural hair content is something that really resonates with people.
Hmm.
I am becoming that representation for girls who've never seen it before.
Yeah.
That in itself to me was a weight I was willing to carry, but also again, it's very important to be cautious of how I move
Hmm.
with that.
Hmm.
Something else that was really good or that did really well on my channel was girl talk videos.
Hmm.
I was big on those because I felt like I have a great relationship with my mom, but unfortunately not everybody. Like very
Hmm.
transparent, very open dialogue, always like my best friend, literally.
Hmm. That's
And
great.
I know that a lot of girls and women weren't gifted that same privilege, so they might not be able to have those hygiene, TMI
Hmm.
conversations, just those things. There's not an open, safe space for them to have those conversations or to like have certain knowledge about things. So,
Hmm.
like I remember in the beginning, I did a girl talk on losing my virginity
Mm.
and my experience and stuff like that, and that hit over 1 million views. And that's
Oh
just
wow.
to go to show like, and what I pride myself about that video, it wasn't about that the sexual aspect
Hmm.
of it. It was kind of like, no, actually, I regret that I lost it at such a young age. And
Hmm.
I was so impressionable with my first boyfriend, and I lacked understanding at that time. Just kind of giving a different insight and
Hmm.
perspective of like, it's important to
Advice.
wait when you're ready. Don't feel peer pressured. Like there was always I've always tried to make sure my videos and my content had a message behind it that brought
That's
value
great.
and impact to people's lives. So girl talks like that. Girl talks about how to keep her clean and like smelling good, but also
Hmm.
healthy because it's not just about spritzing perfume. It goes deeper than that. So like those kind of big sister conversations if they don't have a
I was gonna
sister
say it's like
or
a big sister kind of thing.
yeah,
Sure.
definitely.
That's so
So
cool.
natural hair girl talks, and then whenever I had my boyfriend husband now on the channel, those would do really good. Like we would try to give like relationship advice and tips because like I
Hmm.
said, we started as best friends platonically, like freshman, a bit of sophomore year, then he started hitting on me, and then now we're here.
Yeah.
But the foundation of our relationship has always been our friendship. We have an amazing time together. We genuinely like who each other are,
Yeah.
the person that we are. So trying to bring that to the platform and explain like different healthy ways to maintain a relationship. And that's how our brand, our couple's brand, kind of branched off. Because at one point, people were like, oh, you should turn your channel in the beginning. You should turn your channel to a couple's channel. And I was like,
Mm.
no, I did this for me, but we could
Yeah.
start our own, which we did. We started our own brand. And now we're kind of a trifecta because he has his own, we have our own together, and then I have mine. So,
Yeah. Yeah. We
yeah.
could talk a little bit about that because I think that's really interesting because I believe you guys had started a Patreon and now you guys have do you have your own like Instagram? So tell us about kind of the how that proceeded. And does your husband is he a full-time kind of content creator as well, or does he have something else going on and he's just kind of helping out here a little bit?
Yeah, so no, he helps out a lot of it
A lot of it.
actually. So the
Okay.
funny thing is he how do I put this? We started our couples thing, our channel, our brand about a year after I started mine,
Okay.
but he was a full-time football athlete, I was a full-time track athlete, and
Hmm.
like he was thinking at one point he was going to work towards going to the NFL. So when I
Oh,
brought the idea of social media couple to him, it wasn't really a turn on at that time
yeah.
in the space that we were in,
He
or
had
that
other
he
things
was in
going on.
individually on his journal on
Hmm.
his journey. And then so we were kind of in and out, a little bit inconsistent with the couple's brand, but it was growing in its own right. And then when we graduated college, we kind of took a break from it. He was thinking about getting a job, and he just went through a whole like almost post-grad depression, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
of kind of like, and I think the interesting thing is so many people go through that. I think the only reason I kind of didn't is because I had YouTube,
YouTube.
or it already was set up by the time I graduated. Whereas a lot of people, a lot of graduates, you kind of don't realize the reality of life and adulthood until you walk that stage and it's like, oh, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah. And I
You know what
think
I
that
mean?
for athletes too, I know a lot of athletes
Oh
that
man,
after college, and
yes.
if they don't do anything afterwards, I think that's because my husband was an athlete and a lot of his friends. And it's like, if you're a serious college athlete, which
Yes.
too, that's a whole part of your identity that if you don't move forward there,
Yes.
you've worked on it your whole life.
Right.
Hmm.
So that was a huge mental transition. That's again what we were saying about, now we're both college sweethearts. So going through these stages of life together have
Mm.
been amazing. It's had its ups and downs and stuff, but the fact that we've come out on top, both of us, we've both gone through our own individual stuff. But saying all that about him, so after he went through that, got back on his feet, got his first job. He actually his last job ended up being Papado's Seafood Kitchen. I don't know if you guys have that where y'all are located.
What's it called?
Um, Papado's Seafood Kitchen.
No, not
Okay.
not here in
It's like
San Diego.
Louisiana-based
Okay.
food. It's really good, but he started as a server there, a waiter
Hmm.
there, actually. Mind you, he graduated with his degree in business, and I believe he might have minored in leadership as well.
Mm.
But he started as a waiter. Within 2 months or so of being there, they promoted him to manager, and he like rocked that out.
Hmm.
And then the pandemic hit. We decided to give our all, because I think he had 3 months of not having to go to work. We were just like at home.
Hmm.
And we decided to fully immerse ourselves in our brand, like crank out videos, XYZ. And we ended up accumulating enough followers and income where he could quit his job by November 2020.
Wow.
And granted, March 2020, I think, is when the world had shut down.
Yeah.
So within that time period is when we decided to grind it out. Because to me, the ultimate goal was always for us to both be our own bosses. Because he was with me from the very beginning of this journey and saw like the process and the evolution of what the career could do for you. So
Hmm.
there was that aspect of things. And then, to be honest, though, his individual journey, the trifecta part, right? His part really just started, I would say, like last year. Really top of this year, he's grinding in a different way where it's like him finding his own voice. I
Hmm.
think that's the interesting about him kind of being the last part of the trifecta, seeing my individual journey, then seeing the couple's brand and how, like, because the way my journey elevated is not the same way our couple's journey elevated, and is not the same way his journey will elevate
Yeah.
and evolve. So I think it's been interesting for him on the back end to kind of like figure out, well, what is my place in this? Like, how can I find out my own voice? What is my niche? Like,
Yeah.
just him as his own individual brand. It's been very interesting to juggle. So we juggle 3 brands as a household, and
Mm.
it's been a beautiful, chaotic journey.
Journey.
But
Yeah.
he is full time now, and gets his own brand deals. Like, he actually, Nike was always on my wish list. He partnered with Nike before I did
Oh,
last
good
year.
for
So
him. That's a
yeah, he
great
partners with
collab.
Nike and Dick's Sporting Goods and
Oh
stuff.
wow.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I interview a lot of YouTubers and I work with a lot of them, and there's a decent group of them where their husbands are kind of either behind the scenes or even in front of the scenes, almost working with them on their business. I mean,
A huge part of the brand. Yes.
yeah, because
Yes.
it's
Mine
like,
is too.
yeah.
My
So
brand
what is
present day
his
would not
role?
be possible. Yeah. So he's like my creative director,
Okay.
my producer. He edits some things
Yeah.
sometimes. He helps me script write, like, especially when it comes to brand deals. When it comes to my organic content, like, I handle that and but he's such a creative.
Hmm.
So oftentimes I do want his opinion, or I do want his help on, like, how can I make this a little, like, this transition a little bit better?
Yeah.
He's a full-blown production company at, like, on his own, photographer, videography.
Oh
And
wow.
as content creators, we are all walking production companies, because
Yep.
you have to figure out how to do everything on your own.
So much work.
So yeah, he has been a godsend in multiple ways, but
Yeah.
definitely like the creative director, kind of like the manager before I had a manager,
Yep.
to
Yeah.
be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think women like yourself are really lucky in a way when you have a partner there that can help you, because either once you get to a certain point, where, especially, where you're at, you see, it's like, it's almost impossible to be a woman show. There's just too much to go on. So either, you hire people, you get a team, or like I said, like I know a lot of women that are able to have their husbands come on board,
Yep.
and in a way it's really cool, because you fully trust this person,
Yeah.
and they're there to, and they might bring a different skill set, and now you guys are kind of
100%.
working on this, like, even though you're the quote unquote
The
influencer,
face.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
right.
face,
Mm-hmm.
it's still, it's a very serious business now, where you're both heavily invested in the outcome of
100%.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're stronger together than we are apart. Two minds
Yeah.
are always better than one. The
Yeah.
whole yin and yang of a relationship and a marriage is that one person individually is not, I don't want to say is not enough, right? That's not the right language, but you are stronger with the right person.
Yeah.
And that's why I contribute so much to like who I am, who I've become, and where this journey has led me to having a supportive partner in my corner from the very beginning.
That's amazing.
So
that's
yeah,
cool.
and I think it's super dope that a lot of women are doing that, because at the end of the day, like when you're in a relationship and a marriage, you are a team. So if one person is winning on the team is winning as a collective. And that was, I think, the important thing, too, that we had to find adjustment and comfortability in, especially with him, because of like societal views again, like the woman being the face or appearing like the lead. We've always led with each other, but you know what I mean? Like it can look like that. And him having to find his own level of confidence and comfortability and knowing his role is still very valid, regardless of what social media might say or portray what our dynamic is.
Yeah.
So I think that's so dope. Like, because again, me nor I think I can speak for these other women whose husbands are a big aspect of the brand, it wouldn't be possible without them.
Yeah. Yeah.
In multiple ways. So yeah, the team is winning and the same with him when he's getting the Nike deals and the Dick's Sporting deals and stuff. Like I'm the photographer behind his content and helping him out.
That's great.
It's super dope.
That's fun.
Honestly, we're business partners. Yeah,
that's fun.
Building an empire together.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And so, given that you've been on YouTube for so long, I think you said it's been about 7 years or so.
Yeah, I made my 7 years earlier this month.
All right, congratulations. That's
Thank
great.
you.
So, what do you find right now? Every single kind of milestone has its own set of challenges, but right now, where you're at right now, having done this for so long, having done I don't know how many videos, right? What do you find is the most challenging thing right now?
I guess there's a couple things that come to mind, because I wouldn't say that one aspect that what comes to mind immediately. The challenging part was staying authentic and true to who I was, not when I'm battling present day, but what like the last 2 years, I kind of call it the matrix when the pandemic hit and stuff like that. That was a whole kind of animal of its own. And then even like, because I started this journey in the very beginning of my 20s, people have seen me live out my 20s, the ups, the downs, the like all of that. Right. And we don't know nothing in our I mean, every stage of life, you're never going to know everything, but especially 20s. The 20s are the years to mess up and learn from your mistakes,
evolve.
relearn, unlearn, evolve. So to do that publicly has not always been the easiest. And I think that when I was mentioning kind of like my matrix phase that I refer to it, 2020, 2022, the funny thing is in 2019, I was invited for the first time to YouTube Black. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before.
No, you can explain what that is.
Okay, YouTube Black is basically like a segment of YouTube that's solely focused on the Black creators, like the top performing Black creators. So they had like flown us out to Atlanta. It was like a whole experience. Cool. They had multiple workshops for us. They rented out a rolling rink. Like they kind of rolled out the red carpet. There was this thing called Fan Fest. So it was like a concert that we walked the red carpet and got interviewed. And it was like a whole thing, right?
How many creators did they?
Oh, man. It had to be... I want to say it had to be about the top 100.
Oh, wow.
I would say. I don't think it was too much more than that.
How cool to get an invite for something like that.
Yeah, it was amazing. They rented out a hotel. Like the hotel was just us in it.
Oh, how cool.
So it was a whole like experience. And but the thing was for me at that time, again, small town girl, student athlete, always went to private school. So like to me private school is a little bit sheltered. It sheltered me a decent amount from the real world. Being immersed into social media and YouTube, though, is a whole nother world animal industry that I don't feel like I was prepared for, equipped for. Like, you don't know what you don't know, right? Especially when I starting as a junior in college. So when I attended YouTube Black, it was, part of me was dope and happy and excited and grateful for the opportunity. And then the other part of me being around these other top performing creators that I said I used to do research on before. Now I'm in the same room and space as them. So that in itself, like digesting, like, how did I get here? But also questioning kind of the why am I here? Like that inferiority complex kind of took over a little bit, that imposter syndrome. And I allowed myself to feel very like inferior. And to be honest, the crazy thing is it was off of materialistic things. Even how I was raised, I wasn't raised with like a silver spoon in my mouth. My mom was a single parent because my dad passed away when I was very young.
I'm sorry.
She made ends meet for the family. So I never we never struggled like that, but like I also wasn't getting the latest stuff. And nor did we need it. Because my mom blessed me with the greatest gift that I feel like can be given to a person, who was love, like truly unconditional, intentional. This is why we're best friends. I can talk to her about anything, everything, XYZ. It wasn't about how much money she could give me or whatever, gift me. But the world of social media is very like visual and very has a tendency, I don't want to generalize, but has a tendency to be very materialistic and like just operate on that level and consume. I mean, it's all about consumerism.
It is. I mean, brands are working with you. You're talking about hauls and this and that. And so, creating it's like you're creating this like lifestyle, and it's not necessarily like a facade, because for some people that is their life, but it's you're curating what people see.
Correct.
And then, people have a tendency to show kind of the best of the best.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. And so when I was around that, I was like, I didn't feel like I belonged or like deserved to be there. Very intimidated. Yeah. And when I had left YouTube Black, that was November 2019, I was like, I'm going to make sure I never feel like this again. So I find myself spending lots of money on clothes, like the outside exterior imagery and aesthetic, and trying to make sure it aligns with what I saw these other influencers, how they were moving and carrying themselves. And the thing is too, what's interesting is as I've gotten older, right? How old was I? Like 20.
Well, that was, you said 2019 was that? So that was what, like 3 years ago?
Years ago. So I was
4 years ago. Yeah.
24, 25. Yeah. It's so funny how much my mind and mentality has shifted since then. But again, this industry, if you're not prepared for it, basically, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything.
Yeah.
Right? So it was one of those things of like, okay, well, how do I not make myself feel like that again the next time I'm in a space like that? So yeah, I got home and I'm starting to buy these things. And ultimately, I'm realizing it was to kind of cushion that ego. Right. And like make myself feel better or worthy of being in the same space as others, when
you're influenced by the influencers to kind of change your behavior.
And this is what I don't think a lot of people admit to, though. And that's something that I've really tried to pride myself on throughout my journey of when I learn better, I try to do better. And I also try to share it because, again, we have that responsibility as influencers. People are watching us. And this is something I've been recently sharing with my followers and audience about this whole thing that I'm telling you about right now. Because if I was to just live through it, experience it, I'll finish too, because the other side of the story is I buy all these things. Me and my husband take off with our social media where we can be full-time influencers. We decided to move to downtown Chicago in a high rise we're currently still living in, just to like do something in our 20s before we have kids and still like live, YOLO type thing. And all of it was exciting. The adrenaline was high because we moved in March 21st March 1st,
2021.
2021. So this was a
Mm-hmm.
year, literally a year after the shutdown. And remember, I was like, he quit his job November 2020.
Yeah.
We also got engaged August 2020. So much
A
happened in
lot happened for
2020.
you.
Right. And then like within a year, literally a year later, now we're moving downtown Chicago, XYZ, kind of like living, to be honest, at that time, I felt like everything that EC was wanting and thinking in college of like where this journey could go, scared to say it, scared to think it, but like in an ideal world, in a
Yeah.
fantasy world, I attained it. I
Yeah.
made it here. But then after a few months of being here, there was this like emptiness inside.
Oh.
And like this feeling of like still lacking, but it was internal.
Mm.
The initial feeling from YouTube Black was like, I'm lacking XYZ because I'm
The
not looking like,
external, like
it's the
yeah,
external
all
lack,
the
right?
stuff or what? Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes. So then I get back and I work on that external lack, but then now I'm internally lacking in a way I never have on
Mm.
this journey before, because it
Interesting.
started from such a pure place of, I feel like there's not enough representation for someone who
Representation.
looks like
Yeah.
me. I feel like there's other women out there that can relate to not being the typical Instagram baddie. XY, there was a purpose behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then when YouTube Black happened, the purpose and the focus was kind of shut off. And it was very like like, how can I make sure myself, I don't feel,
Image.
yes, it was
Mm-hmm.
just kind of focused on that a bit. And it's even interesting as I like analyze my content
That was my next
year.
question. Like, how did that impact your
Yeah, I
content?
can tell the difference. I
Mm-hmm.
can tell the difference.
Ah.
Maybe the aesthetic and the looks were more popping, but my message or my captions, like the captions went from like this thorough, valuable breakdown of how to do a hairstyle or blah, 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 to a Drake lyric or a Beyonce quote. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just kind
Mm-hmm.
of like, to me, for me as the influencer I hold myself to, it felt like a very low vibration and frequency to
Mm.
just be popping on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah. Surface. Yeah.
Surface, very surface.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, we get here and it didn't click for me until I realized I'm living in an answered prayer, yet I'm still somehow unhappy.
Mm.
Why am I feeling this? Why am I feeling empty? Why is there a void? And I'm living everything EC in college thought was like making it. And that was the interesting thing too. Like, it has been 7 years, but again, for me to start in a place that from absolute zero, I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
any like social media friends who shouted me out. Like everything was purely organic. I never bought followers. I never bought views,
Mm-hmm.
any of that. So for me to go from zero to this, it does feel pretty fast. Like I'm going to hit a
Yeah.
million this year, and it's pretty
That's
mind blowing to do
amazing. A
that in 7
million. You
years.
were scared at
Yeah,
100,000. A
that's what I'm
million.
saying, Erika.
Yeah.
Yes, it's pretty wild. So to digest all of this
Mm-hmm.
has been an experience in its own right, but also EC in college didn't really think further than where I landed 2021 of like, I'm
Mm.
in this answered prayer. And I
Now
think
what?
that's why I also was stuck, because I'm like, well, what next? What do I do now? Like, what's the next?
Yeah.
How do I go bigger than this, or
The
like
next
what?
level.
Next level. Yeah. And I think it's interesting to think of the topic of next level when you're just thinking about surfaced external things. Because you can always continue to accumulate different accolades and stuff like that. But again, I attribute it to the way I was raised. I'm deeply rooted. My mom rooted me all my life in
Mm-hmm.
what's truly important, those intrinsic things and values. And I ultimately think that is why. And then also God,
Mm-hmm.
100%. I was
Mm-hmm.
raised with that. I was raised with God, and spiritual
Yeah.
was all throughout my life, my childhood. My mom was extremely spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband actually is a PK, so that's a whole thing.
Okay,
But
cool.
I think that's why I had this. My spirit was like not in a good place.
It wasn't fulfilled. It wasn't
It wasn't
that
fulfilled.
yeah.
It was like this void, and like
And it's so
I had never
yeah.
been in a place like that in my life. I'm always a very like upbeat, chipper,
Mm-hmm.
next move type of person, and then I just found myself very stuck. 2021 and 2022.
So you weren't aligned. Like it's like
I wasn't
you were
aligned.
exposed to this whole another world. You came back
Yes.
thinking that's what you need to do, and you did it, and you're like, oh yeah, look at me. And it's so funny how us as humans, we have, you never know what to call it. Instinct, your gut, your
Yeah.
spirit, your, whatever it is. It's like your internal GPS system was just like
Yes.
going like, you're going the wrong way, you see? Like
Yes.
you're going here and this is where you need to go. But the good thing is that it sounds like you're very in tune with that,
Yeah.
and you felt it, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
you felt that disconnect that was
Yes.
happening
It couldn't
spiritually.
be ignored because I
Mm-hmm.
also found myself at a point where like I didn't know what type of content to make really
Yeah.
anymore.
Oh,
I had
okay.
almost got to a point where not almost. I had got to a point, I think it was top of last year. I remember verbatim telling my husband, yeah, I think I'm done with the natural hair stuff. Like I've been doing it for 5 years, half a decade. Like I've done all the
Mm-hmm.
wash and goes, I've done all the wash day routines, like I've done it all, so to speak. And then it wasn't until towards the middle end of 2022, I had partnered with Hulu.
Okay.
They had this new show called The Hair Tales that came out. It
Mm-hmm.
was
Okay.
produced by Tracy Ellis Ross, Oprah
Oh.
Winfrey, and Angela Davis. And it's basically about the history and oppression of Black hair
Mm-hmm.
in the media. In general, but in the media, and
Yeah.
Oprah's story was actually amazing. She's always been a Black woman figure in the
Yeah.
media, and what they kind of forced her to go through because of her hair was insane. I highly
Mm-hmm.
recommend anybody watch it, whether you're Black, white, whoever,
Mm-hmm.
because it just gives you different insight and perspective. But saying all that to say, when I had watched the show, it clicked for me like, I don't know if I'm able to cuss on here,
No, you can guess.
but I was like, oh shit, this is
Mm-hmm.
so much bigger than me. That was the click. And I
Oh.
think that that's what I try not to generalize, but I feel like there is a lack of understanding with a lot of people in this industry that this shit is so much bigger than you because of all the
Yeah.
people that are following you. That's why the messages and the content and the things that we say, the things that we do, the things that we show matter. It all
Yeah,
matters.
it does.
So many people's eyes are on you. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even the society that we're living in, like I kind of call the matrix social media. We
Mm-hmm.
are in it. We're immersed in it. And I even try to talk to my followers now as I learn different things about me, like my screen time, for example, was like
Oh yeah.
I was averaging 7 hours a day. Because
A
on
day.
Sundays, your iPhone,
Yeah.
so your iPhone will tell you your screen time
Yeah.
report. Then I'm starting to calculate, okay, so 7 days out the week, if
Yeah.
I'm doing 7 hours a day, you telling me I'm on my phone for 49 plus
Hours a
hours?
week.
Just
Yeah.
and that's another world. If you're on your phone for 2 plus days, you're in another world. So it is to me a form of the matrix already that we're in.
Yeah.
And it's not to be deemed like this evil thing because I wouldn't be where I'm at right now
It's a
without
love
this
hate thing
matrix.
with the
But it's
social.
something to
Yeah.
be, oh yeah, it's something to be mindful and aware of because real life is still meant to be lived. And that
Mm-hmm.
was another thing too that like I think I'm giving you a whole bunch of I'm giving you a loaded answer because there's
No,
so
it's
much,
great.
so many hardships and obstacles
Mm-hmm.
that I've had to overcome and like understand the screen time report because also right outside of social media when the pandemic hit and stuff there was a lot of devastation amongst the world with the deaths and everything and I actually lost 3 people
Oh,
in my family not even necessarily to COVID but just during that time
that
period from
time.
2021 to 2020
Mm-hmm.
to 2022 and it was sudden deaths very abrupt
Mm.
like out of nowhere and that was the first my aunt who I was like one of my favorite aunts
Mm.
very close with her grew up with her because her and my mom had a child care center that they started when I was 4 months old so I like grew
Mm.
up with her and she was at my apartment 1 month and then the next month just got a call that she had passed away and she lives
Oh
down
my
the
gosh,
block
I'm
from me and I
sorry.
was so excited thank you to move to
Oh,
downtown Chicago
to
because
be
I knew I
close
was
to
going to be able to like
her.
hang out with her and exactly so
Oh, I'm
um
sorry.
thank you. There was just so much to digest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also contributed to all right, I've gone down the wrong path. Now I'm here and I want to I want to find my way out. But I think what also I had to realize is that I could not figure the way out by myself.
Mhm.
I used to feel like I was in so much more control of my life than what I really was. And it wasn't until I started realizing my screen time report, or like the influence that other influencers were having on me, or just the ways that the industry, I shouldn't even say the industry, I allowed the industry to change me.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
because we're in control of our beings, our full self and stuff. So um, with the deaths and stuff, we didn't have one in my family since my dad passed when I was 12. So it had been like 15 plus years of just like, let's say, blissful family,
Yeah.
interactions and stuff. And with the pandemic, you didn't really get to see your loved ones
I
like that because
know.
everybody was trying to stay healthy. My family,
Mhm.
my mom was like one of 6 siblings. So my cousins
Mine too.
feel more like siblings to me than they do cousins, because
Mm.
every Thanksgiving, Christmas, like we're together as a
Mhm.
whole unit every time. So during the pandemic, we didn't get to do that because everybody wanted to stay safe, and we
Yeah.
do Zoom calls, but like
Not the same.
it was not the same at all.
Mm-mm.
And it was relatively devastating that as
Mhm.
soon as the pandemic is starting to lift, now people are passing away. And it's just
Yeah.
time we'll never get back. And realizing like, okay, you're spending 49 plus hours in this different world when you have loved ones who are alive and well and still here that you can, because also I would tell myself like, oh yeah, I'm going to make sure I go hang out with my aunt or my uncle
Mm.
and just like kick it with them, and then don't do it. And then one of my aunts ended up having like a stroke. And I'm like, calculating what is truly
Yeah,
important.
what are the priority
What are the
exactly?
priorities?
Mhm.
Well, and things that can't be bought with money. You can't buy time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so with all of this that I'm going through in my 20s, I try to bring this conversation to the table, to people. One, to show I'm human and I'm going through shit too.
Mhm.
I think that there is oftentimes a mask with being a social media influencer and content creator, that our lives are perfect, this aesthetic perfect thing. As perfect as what my room looks like. Trust me, it didn't look like this an
Looks
hour
very
ago before I
organized
got
and
really
perfect.
into
Like we talked about it offline. I'm like, ooh, I'm loving what's going on back there.
it. Thank you. But yeah, that's like the
Mhm.
imagery that we've curated, kind of like you were saying, like everything is the best version of what we want it to be and what we want to show.
Mhm.
During these times where I'm going through this like just very low period in my life, I'm obviously not really turning on the camera. And the times that I did try to fake it, it did not feel authentic to me. And
Right.
I can see it in myself that I'm having this internal battle with like trying to
Mhm.
show up and be and it's a performance,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
exhausting to try to keep up with that performance and that mask when
Yeah.
things at
That's ex-
home internally aren't going well.
yeah.
So I found myself like taking multiple social media pauses and breaks, where I
Okay.
just like hiatuses, I should say. The thing is, I wouldn't really plan them. I would just kind of hit a burnout and then I would just drop out the face. Like I
Mm.
would just stop posting. I wouldn't say anything. And then I would come back like, hey, I'm back. And the thing is too, I was telling my followers during these pause seasons, I would say like it's for me to get myself together and blah, blah, blah. And then I had to start thinking, well, what am I really doing with the time? Because this is
Mm.
before the awareness of like 7 hour screen time. And that's minus whatever the hell time I spend watching Netflix and binging stuff, right? So much of life is immersed in technology
yeah.
and
Screens. I know.
yeah,
I
screen.
know.
And it was interesting too because I started YouTube as a hobby. It became a career, and then I found myself without a hobby. And I think that was a part of
Mm.
it too. Of like,
Interesting. That's a good
yes,
point.
so
That's
not a lot of
interesting.
people have a hobby,
Mhm.
something that doesn't need you to turn on. And that was the thing too. Like because I've started social media at such a young age, junior in college, so many like my life was content. I
Mhm.
didn't there and I'm still presently battling. You're talking about like present day, what am I going through? I'm kind of giving you a full timeline here,
Yeah.
but um battling with balancing what is okay to just be mine. Just be my own personal offline core
Private.
memory and experience. Even when it came to like getting married, and that process, that journey, we had documented our whole wedding journey and put it on our Patreon, from like venue scouting to trying on dresses to like all of it, just to give people going to get our marriage license, just to give people a like in-depth insight of the whole journey of getting married. And but that was interesting because also there was this guilt if we were doing something related to this new journey we were starting and didn't have the camera on to share the moment with others.
Yeah.
So like figuring
Yeah.
out that balance of like a balance and boundary. I'm realizing, and I'm still working on it, needing to have a boundary with self, because the thing is too, as a social media influencer, content creator, you're your own boss,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
I'm telling myself when to check out. And sometimes I don't. There'll be times where like we would not like go the whole day just working and not eat until dinner time. Or I wish I had better language for it, but it's like being your own boss, but also being the employee and not having a healthy relationship with it at all, of when to say like it's not a 9 to 5.
Yeah, the
Entrepreneurship
boundaries.
sometimes is
It's like trying to
24 hours.
yeah, it's like trying to set boundaries around your career, which involves your personal self and your
Yes.
own private life, which I would imagine is even harder given that you do everything with your husband as well. So it's like the time
Right.
with your husband, you're talking about your career and what you guys, your business. And,
Yes.
because if he wasn't in the industry, then maybe you'd have other things to be talking about or just things to be able
Mhm.
to shut off that, but
Mhm.
it probably makes
And
it 10 times harder given that to shut that off, given that you guys are both involved in it.
yes, I
Hmm.
would say we've always benefited because of the friendship, because we were genuinely friends first. That
Hmm.
has never left. But being able to switch off business partner mode, and like, business partners, you are going to butt heads at times if we're
Yeah.
not agreeing about a video or a thumbnail or something. How, and like having to figure out, how do we not carry this over into like relationship when camera is off?
Hmm.
Because now I got an attitude with you about the video title that we ended up deciding on. But now that the
Yeah.
video is up, now I'm looking at you like, so just figuring out,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so many layers to
Yeah.
this.
There's
It's
so
so
much.
many layers to it.
There,
And
there's a lot. There's a lot
it's
there.
a
It's
lot.
yeah.
And it's important to, like, I again reiterate, I think it's very important to be super honest and transparent about the journey, so that others who are interested in like embarking on the journey themselves understand this is the glitz and glam and the aesthetic that you see.
Hmm.
But there's also a whole nother animal inside to this. Like, we didn't even get into management, brand deals. Like,
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing.
That's
And
a
I didn't even have management until like 2-3 years ago. So for the first half of my career, I was doing things 100% on my own.
yeah.
Even contracts, signing contracts that I did not even understand the language of, but it was like, hey, they're trying to pay me. So that's what I felt like I had to do. There's no guidebook for any of this.
No, it's
There's
all
no blueprint.
it's still the wild wild west. So
Yeah.
all right, EC, we're going towards the end of the interview, and I just want to ask you just rapid fire questions that I ask everybody that
Okay.
comes on the show, and then you just respond with like your first kind of instinct. Okay.
Okay.
Um, if you were to start over your channel right now, what if anything would you do differently?
Mm, nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the reason why is because I had to go through every single thing that I went through to even be on here with you right now, sharing this other side of the
Yeah.
journey with you, right? Like, I've come out a better person from going through the matrix and like understanding that it's important to always stay rooted and true and authentic to yourself. Because at the end of the day, when the camera goes off, you got to deal with what's going on in here and here. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't change anything because
Love
I've become a
that.
better person out of it. Yeah.
Love it. What is your favorite video you have on your channel?
That's tough.
You have a lot. You have a lot of
I
videos.
do. Ooh. I think I'm going to say the boyfriend tag, just
The
because
one that
that was my
started it all.
first ever like legit video. And then he's my husband now. So it's
Oh,
like,
that's true. That's
it just
cool.
goes to show the evolution of what we have done and what we've created, how far we've come as a unit. So I would
That's
say that,
cool. How
yeah.
cool to one day show like, future kids or
Kids and
family.
stuff,
Isn't that
yeah.
cool? That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a digital diary,
Yeah,
literally.
that's cool. Um, any video that you uploaded that you were like really excited about that just flopped?
Hmm. I think that like my vlogs have a
Mm,
tendency where I'm like excited to be shown, and like I don't feel like they perform the best, but also I'm trying to get out of that mentality of it's not about the numbers and the views, it's about the impact in the message.
Yeah.
We oftentimes get caught up in the aesthetic of the views and how that looks on your page and the engagement and stuff like that, to the
Yeah.
point where, again, harshly judging my life. My content is my life. And if it's not getting enough likes or not getting enough views, now I'm overly judging my life as if it's not adequate or like enough.
Yeah.
So,
Tying
um,
yourself, I always say this, tying your self-worth to the ebbs and flows of YouTube and how your videos perform is
yeah,
one of
it's mad
the
unhealthy.
it's really unhealthy. But the thing is, it's something that so many creators do, because it's like
Hmm.
one day they're on top of the world, like, oh, life is great, I'm
Hmm.
amazing, because your videos are doing well. And then you have a slump where videos aren't doing well. And then it's like personal, right? So then it's like your own
Yeah,
self worth is now impacted because your channel's not doing well.
right.
So that
It's
and it's
important. You got to have a hold on that one, because
mm-hmm,
it should not control your emotions to that magnitude. You have to. You're the captain of your own ship, as in your own person, your own body,
mm-hmm,
your own mind. So again, this is something I'm present day still working on, like
yeah,
unlearning,
hard,
relearning to do better.
yeah,
But I would say, yeah, there's vlogs that I'm like, dang, I thought that was gonna do better, or I wish it would have been, but
yeah, yeah. What is your biggest opportunity you got as a result of being a YouTuber?
Oh, there's been so many opportunities. I can kind of say, I think that, to be honest, I'm going to speak this into existence, because this year I can already tell is going to be different than all the years.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also why I said I regret absolutely nothing with the journey, because I don't have that feeling of lack or that unfulfilled emptiness anymore. To be honest, ever since I invited God into my life to kind of direct my path of like, okay, what do I need to do? What should
Mm-hmm.
I do? How do I get back to self? I feel like I have so much more to say now that's actually valuable and can help people, other than like, look
Mm-hmm.
at my new purse. Look at my new. That's
Yeah.
still a part of me. I'm a
Yeah.
fashionista. Like, I'm into that type of stuff. I'm going to continue to show people how to do their hair, stuff like that. But there's so many levels to this. And I think, like, even having conversations like this
Mm-hmm.
are a really, really big deal, because people can see themselves in others, which
Mm-hmm.
is why the transparency and relatability aspect of being an influencer is important to maintain for me. So, like, I have what's it called, a guest speaking event at a university coming up this
Oh,
month.
cool.
I'm doing a panel next month, potentially in Toronto, Canada, amongst the other things. So I
Wow.
would say this year I can't fully give you that answer, because I think this year is going to be my most impactful year in a way that I'm like super proud of. Like, I've done hair photo shoots here and in there and stuff, but it wasn't about my voice and what I had to
Yeah,
say.
your message and
No,
how
it was my,
you,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. What do you think is your own personal superpower that has led to your success here on YouTube?
Yeah, I think that it's funny. I actually said this recently in a video. I think my superpower is my transparency and
Mm-hmm.
authenticity, and how real I come to the table without a mask. Um, Especially in these later years. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't really have any shame in my game, because we're all just learning.
Yeah.
Nobody has it perfect. Like, nobody has all the answers. So just remaining humble, and never letting, or I don't want to say never, right? Because I feel like that matrix I was talking about, not that it made me feel cocky, but so that came from a place of ego and whatnot.
Last question is, what is your number one piece of advice for someone that might be watching this interview right now, who is thinking about starting a YouTube channel? They're just starting out.
I would say make sure you're starting it for the right reasons, and it has a purpose behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, well, me and my husband, we get the question a lot of, how do you start a YouTube channel? How do you make it
Oh, for
successful?
sure, yeah.
And oftentimes it feels like that question is stemming from, I see the life that you guys are living, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
and I want that for myself. But it's so, as we just discussed the whole call, it's so much deeper than that, and it's so much bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, like, make sure you actually have a purpose, something that you can bring value to people's life. Like, mine happen to be natural hair content, or
Mm-hmm.
conversations that they're not able to have with a sister or a mom, because they might not have access or have that person in their life. Those were valuable things that helped my channel grow.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's the whole aspect of, this shit is bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
If
I
it
love
cannot help
that.
other people, then you kind of got to go back to the drawing board and think of, like, how can I make this not so narrow-minded and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Self-driven, self
self-driven?
kind of
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I loved how you said that about how like that light bulb moment that you had of saying this is bigger than you because it you know you had that starting off like this mission and to
Mm-hmm.
represent a group of people that were just not represented, and then you achieved success, you got a little lost on your way, and then you realize like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, like that was a big part of it, and now
Right.
I'm so focused on myself. So I loved your journey. I loved everything you shared. I mean, you were
Oh,
just so open, and you revealed a
thank
different
you.
side of this whole world of influencing
Yeah.
and bringing kind of the humanity to it. So
Yeah.
I love this interview, EC. So thank you so
Oh, thank
much.
you.
For people that are not familiar with you and your channel and your content, where can they find you?
Okay. So on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, my name is Isimeme Edeko on there. And then if you're looking for like couples content, we have a whole bunch of videos on our YouTube. Like we're super transparent on there because we did our year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've been together 8 years now. So each year we post like what we reflect on, like what we learned,
In your
recognizing
relationship.
toxic traits, like just bringing humanity
Mm-hmm.
again to the
Mm-hmm.
forefront of
Mm-hmm.
this being behind the lens. So if you're looking for that content, our YouTube is Josh and EC, but our Patreon, like our wedding journey, a little bit more intimate into our lives, is Josh and EC as well.
Love it. So I'm going to link all of that in the description so you guys
Oh,
can
thank
check her
you.
out. And this was just awesome. I really enjoyed this chat. Thank you so, so
Me
much for just
too.
sharing everything and being so open.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it, Erica.
Bye.
Bye.